Yeah, this is David DuByne, Adapt 2030. Definitely one of the headliners
Good
of the
afternoon.
show. Yes.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody wants to hear you say it. It's not you.
It's not CO2, it's the sun.
Yeah.
I could almost finish your sentence.
You know. So, looking at my phone, this is where my notes are. Usually I print them.
But there was so much to talk about, too, because LeakCon, everybody who was presenting I just came out, I watched Robert Felix, and he was explaining about magnetic reversals and evolutionary leaps, because our magnetic pole right now going through the excursions, but then that wrapped right into diamonds, talk about, the Carolina Bays and different, what they thought were plasma discharge on the surface, and then, we got Christian, Ice Age Farmer up there, he's talking about the solutions for farming and the way that things are being covered in the media, and D'Souza as well, showing us what looks like these incredibly crazy energy weapons coming down. I was never ever convinced of direct energy weapons, for a lot of these things that were going on with the fire here, something this. I would never believe her. Never, until I saw those videos. Now I'm shocked. I can't even describe to you what I saw here that has just kind of changed my reality.
Yeah. And the nice thing about being here is a lot of oftentimes conflicting views on how things happen. But
good to disagree.
But people are actually talking without needing to be right. Like, This is where I'm coming from. I think this. Oh, I think this. It conflicts. What's wrong with that? So it's been a place where eccentric people who have strong opinions can actually relax and not be afraid of being attacked, physically,
or mentally, or verbally,
or by the government, as far as we know.
Yeah, because that's one thing I did notice. We can all agree to disagree, and that's the best thing, because filling in pieces of the puzzle that I don't see, they don't see, you don't see. Whoever you talk to seems to have this little nugget. It's almost a symbiotic relationship of somebody seems to have always the missing piece, like a puzzle that you're looking for. You're going to find somebody here that'll at least add a little something to maybe fill in a blank spot on the whole tapestry. It's pretty interesting. Same thing happened to me in Alternative View 10 over in London. Ian R. Crane's symposium 2-day event out there too. There was a lot of information that overlaid on top and filled in an enormous amount of pieces. So these are great networking events to get your own information, talk to other people. Disagree, awesome. Agree, great. But it's an incredible conversation to have and just expand your horizons about what other people are thinking.
Yeah, and you can collect some new puzzle pieces. There's a philosopher that I like, Neil Kramer, neilkramer.com. He says that truth destroys the world you used to live in. And something I like about the people here is that they're not afraid to have the world they live in destroyed by the truth. And truth does destroy the world you live in. It messes you up, along with magnetic pole reversals. They do a good job on your world too. But how has it come across to you, just people's boldness here to let their beliefs change? To let what they thought was truth all of a sudden not be truth. Everyone here has gone through a pilgrimage of a bit of their truth shattering.
Yeah, they all have the ideas here too, and that's it seems to be this comfort zone, because the standard thing I keep hearing is they can't talk to anybody else around them.
Yes.
Because everybody they talk to think they're eccentric, outlandish, crazy, tin hat, conspiracy type of person, but go right back in it. ScopeX, geoengineering, everybody used to say, oh, your tin hat, your tin foil wearing hat, conspiracy, lines in the sky, whatever, geoengineering, you feel. Now Harvard comes out and says we started our own perturbation experiment or geoengineering experiments called ScopeX. Harvard's doing it, Yale's doing it, and there's a host of other universities out there now with their own publicly claimed geoengineering projects. Well, hey, I thought that was the stuff of tin hat wearing people. But why is it that it seems a lot of this information coming out in conferences like this, speakers, it really becomes fact 10, 12, 15 years after that they're so far ahead of the curve. But sharing the ideas that are strong seems to be the thing that makes the comfort here. They might be incredibly disagreeing strong, but they're both able to talk without being afraid of being ridiculed or what the boss says, or in the work environment or at home, and family members that always snicker when they talk. It's a real safe place to exchange even heated ideas, because nobody's going to claim that that's stupid or that's ridiculous. Everybody's listening.
Yeah.
They're all listening. That's the thing. Everybody's listening.
Yeah, it's
not judging. There's a huge difference, right?
Yeah, it's a I hate to use the word, it's a safe place.
Safe zone. No, my God, give me my rabbit or whatever they got now. What do they have in the safety zones?
Everybody gets a rabbit. That conflicting belief, or I would just say just different ways of seeing things, it seems like a big deal, but here it just kind of gets glossed over because everybody kind of, they know there's so much they don't know. Yeah. I love the intellectual curiosity.
That's one big thing, is everybody's voraciously diving into the new information. It is. It's mind candy for everybody thinking and listening and looking for new ideas to connect. Because everybody intuitively feels that something's different or changed or something is happening right now. So a lot of the people here are also looking for answers to try to fill in that. It just feels strange. Kind of sixth sense turned on. Like something strange in today's world. Like everybody's feeling it.
Yeah.
And they're trying to put their finger on it. But this is, and they meet in the middle ground. Because one presenter was talking about Tesla technology and the anti-gravitics and different types of things are our own craft that were developed World War II that are still zooming around. But in the cover of military, they were leaving it as in, that they let the UFO thing go out to cover what the military aspects were. Mm-hmm. And then the other part over here is, it's completely extraterrestrial from different star systems, jumping through galactical dimensional travel. But they're meeting in the middle of, there's definitely something else out there and different, so let's explore the ideas together versus just fighting like they would. Global warming, global cooling, boom, you're just done. You closed your conversation.
Yeah. It's interesting how being in a situation now, like here at LeakCon for the weekend, where you have so many strong opinions, so much great research, but yet this strange lack of conflict, it makes me realize how polarized that humanity is right now. And along with many people realizing there's something not right, I'm led to LeakCon, Grand Solar Minimum. Grand Solar Minimum is a gateway drug, as you put it, to all kinds of expansive ways of thinking also. And it'll lead you in many, many different places. But everybody was led here on a certain pilgrimage, a certain curiosity. And I'm just amazed to see curiosity, exploring new ideas, adding to your puzzle pieces, in an environment where people aren't fighting each other. It's weird. This makes me realize how maybe traumatized I am by diverse ideas are so not allowed right now. They aren't. There's like the mainstream take on everything. And outside of that, you're not really even a human being.
Right, and then the politics forced down your throat to comply to a different way. The lexicon being enforced through thought police of what you can say, even not your meaning of the words, but the word you can actually speak. The utterance of a vibration frequency and a sound is being constricted now for us to be able to even utter a vibration from your voice. Is being you're told what vibration you're able to exude from your being. That's it. That's where we're going into is ultimate control. That's really just sound frequency control.
Yeah. Stuart Wilde, a great philosopher, he said that people are becoming fringe dwellers. Like those who are kind of waking up are becoming fringe dwellers. This has really been LeakCon 2019 has really been a pilgrimage of fringe dwellers. And it seems like I'm noticing every year there's more fringe dwellers, people who live in society but on the edge, and they're exploring this new territory. But the fringes keep getting bigger. I see the fringe getting bigger and more comfortable and more open to itself, less conflict. So it's a beautiful experience.
Now, if I could add in there, it's a global thing because where I just came from over in the UK, about an hour and a half northwest of London, it's the same thing happening. So Ian Crane, when they started the same symposium about 10 years ago, he said he had about 20 people, but now it's a very solid 300, and they sold everything out so quickly, and they had to turn away people. They could have gotten about 1,000 into the room, but he's like, the economies of scale, it's just too much for 1,000 persons. But the fringe is everywhere, and it is growing, and their main concern in the EU or over in the UK would be 5G rollout, and the EU Integrated Defense Force, how they're trying to tie all the Europeans together under a unified command for military to go occupy North Africa. So those were the two things that the UK crowd was on. But see, that's the whole thing. It's the base of everybody being awake. Now, the issues on the top could change, but it's that base of being awake that seems to be where the fringe dwellers are kind of like, now it's becoming more mainstream to start questioning the narratives because we've been lied to for so long, and people realize they've been lied to for so long, and then they start to go, wait, what else is out there that I heard that was fictitious that might actually be true. So maybe there are a lot of people revisiting those little breadcrumbs that they put aside, 20 years ago. Well, my friends or my two friends got mad at me when I brought it up.
Oh, yeah.
Never talk about that again at the workplace. Maybe they'll dust that off and bring it out and start exploring again.
Yeah.
A lot of changes, but everybody's becoming more awake. And I'm going to say that around the planet. Taiwan, for sure, Thailand, Myanmar, those people are becoming much more awake to what's happening. And then, everywhere citizens across the planet are banding together, they're noticing that things are strange in the way the government's behaving. And there's a huge global awakening happening every single place across this planet.
Yeah. Well, in the Adam and Eve story, as if you read that beautiful nightmare, always read it before you go to bed. It's very, very important. Read it before
Good
bed.
sleeping material.
Best time. And by the way, when you're reading it, I think a lot of the absolute catastrophe that he was writing about turned out to be possibly toned down a little bit. Suspicious Observers goes through the story and says it might not quite be that bad. But what's my train of thought on that one?
Or it might be worse. Before you go to bed, sleeping, reading.
Oh, sleeping,
Adam
reading.
and Eve.
Yeah, reading the Adam and Eve story. Well, with that, Eve knew. Eve knew the cataclysm was coming. Intuition knew the cataclysm was coming. So ultimately, if there is a GSM, grand solar minimum, coming, hopefully not worse, but that does appear to be, the data shows that, then, well, Eve, our intuition, knows. So it would make sense that at this time where we don't have any time left not to wake up, if your intuition is going to speak to you, this is it. This is kind of getting to that, like, those last moments where your intuition can wake up and you can start hearing it.
Yeah, because one thing I've noticed through both of the conferences that I've been to in the last, week and a half, massive changes are afoot everywhere, and it's all noticing. Everybody's noticing that there's massive changes, and I'll leave it at that. That's a commonality that every speaker across 2 different continents is saying the same thing. There's massive changes happening. They're happening now. We need to take a look at it. But that's kind of the base construct, is everybody understands something massive is happening at this moment on different levels,
Yeah.
From the control grid of 5G into the media and everything else in between.
And that's the thing. There's going to be somewhere, make sure the thing doesn't go to sleep on us.
Structural changes in the sun, too. Electrical changes in the sun. A lot of these things affecting us humans as receptors, too, because if the sun's electrical state changes, obviously the Earth's crust and, the Earth itself being a differently charged body in space, it's going to have a different charge. Our bodies will behave differently with the equilibrium and the electrical charge between sky and Earth.
Mm-hmm. Well,
we're standing right in the middle of it, so we should be really heavily affected. Regardless of the mineral composition under your feet or whatever, it's either metal or maybe it's crystal, whatever, something electrically is vibrating through there. You're that middle conduit between up in the ionosphere connected back to the sun, and then here you are in the middle, and then you're going to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So wearing bare feet is going to be even more highly charged these days.
I like it. Yeah. Well, we really are, each of us individually, we are our own scalar antenna.
Yes.
So we are. So we have to realize our cosmic reality, our cosmic responsibility, as Ice Age Bomber puts it, that you matter and that your vibration, your scalar antenna, you're creating this reality. So you have to, hopefully play a positive part in it. It's time. So whatever leads a person to, in whatever way somebody realizes something is not right and gets led to do something. Here at the conference, it's amazing. You could be a worm farmer. You could be a David DuByne speaking about the GSM.
And I'm taking action, too. I'm not just talking. I'm really taking action because I'm not going to tell you all this and then sit on my ass and eat potato chips. I'm building out systems to try to bring them indoor to grow food indoors. So along with the research, I'm trying to build stuff.
And that's something I wanted to ask you about.
We get all defensive about that.
No. Yeah, we're all doing something. And when you look at the increased cosmic rays and you look at the Schumann resonance being affected, are you seeing people get a little crazy? Because it just seems like to me, as we go into a solar minimum, the 11-year cycle, like this one particularly, I'm just seeing people, evolutionary leaps, people's consciousness. I'm seeing people who are waking up to things that I never thought would. And I also see people who are really turning off. They're going like, nope, I'm checking out for this one.
Yeah.
Are you seeing
I'm seeing both. But more of the wake of people I never in a million years would have never, ever thought that they would hear those words come out of their mouth. Can you say that again?
Yeah.
Like those kind of moments where you're like, that, what? All right, let's sit down and have a real conversation now. Yeah. Because before, when I would say the same things, it would be so dismissed or, walk out of the room or don't talk about it. People think you're weird if you talk about it. Those same people are now coming back going, you knew a lot about that. Why don't you tell me more about it?
Yeah.
That kind of thing going on, especially with previous, events leading up to this point in time.
Oh, yeah. Again, next thing, you see a neighbor painting their house, and that's a nice color, and you see it's a RF resistant paint, and you're like, that's RF resistant paint? And he's like, yeah, the 5G antenna down the street. And you're like, wow, I just thought you were a pain in the ass on the HOA board. I did not expect this from you. This is really cool. So,
yeah, because I remember one thing that you just mentioned, the blocking signal. 5G has no blocking signal. There's no way to block it, except trees and wet leaves. Now, trees will block the signal to about 70%. Trees, big trees, nice trees. If you get the leaves wet, like a misty day or a dewy morning, it blocks the signal at 100%. So they're running around the UK cutting down over 4 million trees to install the 5G system. But at the same time, that's your only defense, because you can block the signal 100%. So if you had trees and you watered them with a sprinkler or some kind of mechanized system, you could create your own grid inside that would be totally unaffected and the full 5G signal would stop. Trees and wet leaves. Wet leaves are your only defense against 5G. It goes through everything. And the only thing that stops it and knocks it down is natural plant life. And that is really trippy, that they're trying to wipe out all the plant life to bring in this system that the only thing that can defend us from it is plant life. And so that's really, it's almost like terraforming, because they're going through all the major cities like Plymouth, Newcastle, York, and they just clear cut the city. Well, they were trying to, and it created such big protests that, you talk about move to action. They went down, it's the story, I'm going to tell you a quick story here. This is the story that started it and started the movement against 5G. Was they had this old neighborhood, over 100 years old, but these trees were over 100 years old. They made this, nice canopy over and it was English countryside, or not countryside home, but like English homes, really beautiful. If this was in New York City, it'd be $1 million, district. These homes were stunning. People go to work in the morning, they come back, and all of the trees down the entire street were clear cut to about, 3 feet tall. But these were like 100-year-old oak trees.
Oh my gosh.
They clear cut them all the way down. And people absolutely were breaking down in tears when they came home, and they had just nervous breakdowns because what the value of their property dropped significantly in a single day. Well, once they realized that they're installing 5G, and then it started to happen to the next street and then the next street, well, word spread through the cities. Like if you see crews coming in, they didn't bring one tree cutting crew truck in, they brought like 6. And they had the big hooks and all kind of other support vehicles behind it. So when you see one of those rally at the end of your street, you would know that you're going to get clear cut. So the neighbors would come out, and they would be rough coming out. They weren't going to come out and just say, hey, guys, don't cut. They're coming out with stuff to stop them from cutting. It gotten so bad now that they bring the SWAT team in to accompany the tree cutting trucks. And it's being forced down the throats, where the citizens are literally trying to stop the tree cutting, but they're pushing through where they have to bring military police out to stop the citizens from stopping the clear cut in their cities. And the new eminent domain law, this was the kicker for me. I'm used to eminent domain in the United States. Like if they want to make a highway, you have to give them the land, right? If they're going to do some kind of construction that's going to help put an airport there, okay, you got eminent domain. You got to give up your land to give the price. The new English eminent domain law is if you have a tree, and I don't care how old the tree is, if it's on your private property, and this is the whole thing about the private property rights. If you have a 100-year-old tree on your private property, it's blocking line of sight between the repeater stations, they legally cut it down. You have no rights anymore, no property rights. They come in, they cut your tree down, and your own private thing is a blocked signal, eminent domain on blocking signal vegetation now. People are really woken up in the UK how bad it's gotten, but it took that whole rift over and it tumultuous, like clear cutting the cities. Like why are they clear cutting? And the thing about the railways too, the British Railway out there, they understood back in the late 1800s when they were burning coal that the ash was coming up, that if it planted trees next to the tracks, A, it would stop the ash from flying off into the fields, and B, and it would be cleaner, and then it helped churn the air. So if you go through the British Rail, the tracks when you get to the countryside, man, there's huge trees all along the place. They want trains to run on 5G, so they're going to deforest everything along every track across the UK. Every single tree is coming down.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is an oh my gosh moment. They're going to cut 4 million trees. Now this is insanity. Just to install a system. And then I learned about the system and I was like, well, my God, they got a heavier carrier wave inside that they can tweak and it has effects on the body. And that's the whole reason I want to talk about it. Is because it's electrical disruption, these frequencies inside the 5G grid to the point where they can use it to incapacitate protesters and people. And as this presentation unfurled, I was like, wow. Mark Steele was the one who gave that presentation. And then other speakers were also, Ian was totally about the 5G. And I've taken a whole new look at it, and I realize it's almost like terraforming to take us down against our protection against an alien force. You want to talk about alien force? Maybe it's an electronic essence that is not a physical. Because you said, would the aliens be like us? Would the foreign extraterrestrials, would they be like us? What if they're energetic bodies that need like a grid of electricity to exist in the physical space? This would be like a super hyper intelligent fourth dimensional being, but it can't exist in our third dimensional world as such unless we give it something to exist in. Like all the copper wiring on the planet, all the fiber optic cables, and perhaps this new 5G grid.
So it can actually truly be wireless finally.
Yeah, because something is, it would truly be wireless. It set itself free on our Earth by being that hyper intelligent that it used all the people to create businesses, to put whatever. But anyway.
I hear you. What gets me about 5G that I don't quite understand.
Well, you get faster internet. You can watch movies faster.
You do have faster internet.
But cut down 4 million trees so you can watch a faster movie. It makes sense.
Oh, well, yeah, it does. I mean, of course it does. But I guess what shocks me about it, and I haven't studied 5G in depth, but to me, it seems like a weak protocol. I mean, I don't quite get the design of it. What gets me is it seems funny, just the design. It just seems like if you're constantly improving the wireless signal over a greater area, I just look at all through history.
It doesn't work like that, does it?
It's just because I like radio frequency. I mean, I've been an amateur radio person forever, and I've made radios out of an old vacuum tube and this and that and the crystal, and I enjoy such things. It just doesn't seem like in the evolution of RF, radio frequency, and transceivers, why you would make a 5G. I understand improving signals, but one that is so... For one thing, it's going to be expensive to implement because you got to make so many towers, and then you have to maintain that. And then every time a bush grows somewhere, it stops working. So it's...
And they'll come and cut the bush before they'll move the tower.
Until they cut the bush. But it just seems that, maybe they don't care about the environmental devastation, but it just doesn't seem effective, which makes me think there's more to it than meets the eye, because I just don't see why you would... 5G seems like, to me, on the surface, like crap.
Yeah, and also what was explained inside there is the rollout of the 5G is coinciding with the rollout of the LED streetlights, because they're anticipating on using the streetlights. It's its own encapsulated 5G riding on top of the streetlight with the LED blowing down. Now, the LED lighting problems, etc., with your eyes, that's one whole aspect of it on the blue range. But what they're finding is these things have antennae that stick out, and they're continually scanning. It's LiDAR and LiDAR radar inside these things. They're continually scanning because the end result is to try to link up everything with the Internet of Things. Mm-hmm. So to be able to do that, everything has to spin and be totally mapped out in a constant 1 or 2 second delay where they know the next thing is moved to. Smart houses, smart grids, all these things, smart meters. But they're finding that the amount of electromagnetic radiation on this thing is ridiculous. And, the gigahertz frequency, they trick you to think it's 5G. That thing runs from like 2 to 40. And what they're finding is the ranges that they can incapacitate people with is up in the high 30s. But that's still built into the system. They might say it's 5G, but that's running the hertz frequency from 2G up to 40G. So think about that. The carrier frequency they're going to tweak, it can incapacitate you, or they've done some studies where they can make people so disoriented by interrupting the electrical firing in the brain synapses somewhere, and then whatever part that would be. Mm-hmm. You're so incapacitated that you can't even open a door because you're just that much in vertigo and nothing's connecting correct in the brain's firing signals back and forth for like your action. Mm-hmm. So that's another disruptor. The next one that they talked about too was a specific wave frequency to bring you to your knees and make you vomit. Like it had that much effect on your body.
Yes. And
another burning one. And I know they've used this one for crowd control, and you see it on top of the Humvees sometimes. It's kind of a really wide antenna one. Mm-hmm. But it's for the whole city at the same time. That's what I learned.
Yeah, that's a lot. And all these talks will be available, and there'll be a link in the show notes. You'll be able to see these talks after the fact. You got to buy them, though. It's worth it. But yeah, it's when they actually make the sounds of the speaker and you put the sand on top.
And you can see that. What do they call it? Cymatics.
Cymatics, yeah. I mean, ultimately, if you think about it, a cancer cell has a cymatic signature. It is it is a frequency, it is a tone. And when you have that much range and that much power over such a large amount of area, I mean, wouldn't that just be a great way to make people sick? Of course. I mean,
if it's the right frequency, if it's the wrong frequency, or not the wrong, but if it's the inert frequency, nothing will happen to you. See, that's the thing. They can. Now it's almost like that one Star Wars episode, Star Trek episode. This is back with Kirk, back in the 60s. But they were on one planet, and the guy had like a rod, and if he didn't comply, he would just touch his skin. And he goes, "That's set for number 1, hurting." And then he turned it up to a 3, and then he fell on his knees like, and they're like, that was a 3. Like that was only a 3. And it made me very much realize that that's the same thing. They can tweak that gigahertz frequency in the between antennas or whatever the grid might be, and get that same exact effect out of you and take you to your knees.
And what a great way to
literally take you to your knees and make you vomit with a frequency. That's insane, where they could cover a whole city like that. So if you got food protesters, you got rioters because the food's too expensive, people can't get fed, maybe the store's out or not all the way out of food, but they don't have any money to buy the food, they're going to go get the food. But I have been saying since the beginning of my channel, 5-6 years ago, I could not figure out how they were going to control the population with so few police and so few military willing to fire on their own citizens. And not only that, just the sheer numbers. To control hundreds of millions of people, you can't use thousands. And I couldn't figure out how they were going to control the civil unrest as the food prices rose so much. But here we go. This is the solution. The 5G network, they're going to run frequency in there to try to control the unruly.
Yeah, I mean, what a great way to stop a
what a
food
bad
protest.
way to do it, but I mean, it is a great way if you're a controller. You have the perfect, absolute crowd control weapon.
Yeah.
And I am saying it's a weapon system. And 5G is weaponized. It's not just like happy, faster internet.
It can disperse a crowd very well. It definitely could. Also, to me, I wonder if it can also program people. Because
never thought about that.
So yes, you can cause pain. Oh, my ears are ringing. I'm burning. Whatever. I have to disperse. I can't be here anymore. But what about just conditioning the mind? I mean, ultimately, the brain gets your synapses. There's frequencies. That resonance does have an effect on us, and it could either make you more easy to hypnotize, to program. I mean, if you're watching
TV does the same thing, right? It has that frequency in the TV of 30 that when you have a camera, you can see the lines running through. You can see it line.
So, but you can interlace different frequencies in that. So, I mean, ultimately, maybe all you need is 5G, but maybe 5G and TV with the frequencies that they can put in that encoded video. I mean, there's a lot that can be done there. So I'm afraid of the TV. I'll watch some Netflix and I'll watch like YouTube and such, but I'm actually afraid of it just because I used to work in video and audio encoding, and it's very easy. There could very easily be a well, of course we know there's programming.
Yeah, subliminals. Coca-Cola got busted doing that in the 60s or the 50s, right?
But there's a
national anthem that rolled on, and the character said, "Be good, trust the government."
Yeah,
that was like black and white something way back in the day, right?
And there's much more they can do now. So, but 5G. However they might articulate this into the brain, definitely, it does seem like everybody buys global warming, but nobody really knows why. But it's a cult, and people will hurt you if you don't agree. And I started thinking to myself, what's going on? Anyway, that possibility of 5G, could they just program? Could it just be like, we're going to actually, just like in the Matrix, but you got your jack in, I'm going to program it. I'm going to send down how to fly a helicopter, right? What if they can just say,
download that?
Hey, everybody this week, let's for fun. Everyone knows how to fly a helicopter now. What if they could just straight up, put programs and program their brain with it? I mean, maybe it takes a month, but you could make somebody have a belief that was absolutely true to them. Even things like that makes people very easy to control. If they think what's going on is their fault, that the government's there to help them. I mean, just comply. I don't know. You could even just create fear. People are just so afraid that they become paralyzed. Anyway, I guess I'm a lot of conjecture out there. But
you think about vibration frequency when the monks do it, and they get into the 528 hertz, and they get in all these hertz frequencies that are a single syllable sound to create either complete calm in your brain. Open up your third eye. I mean, these vibrations are meant for a frequency to change your body physiologically, where you start to sense something different, or it turns off and it calms down. So what if there's a calming frequency and they could tweak that and everybody chills out for the whole day, like almost as if you had a few drinks, and everybody in that whole section of the city is incredibly calm.
Yes.
Where in the other one, they could turn paint or turn off, because it's going to be a grid, so they don't have to turn the whole city into a, stop protesters type of thing. And they're going to be able, just like you do now, you got internet here, your cable goes down in this part of the city, not the whole city goes down.